जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दना जय व्रज जनारञ्जना जय यशोदानन्दना जय व्रज जनारञ्जना जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सतश्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Grantra Srimad Bhāgavatam ki Kali Yuga Pavan Shri Harinama Sankirtan Mahayagnya ki Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Canto 3 of Srimad Bhāgavatam, Chapter 28, entitled Kapila's Instructions on Devotional Service. Text number 21. Sanchintayet Bhagavatas Charanarvindam वज्राङ्कुशध्वजसरोरुहलाञ्छनाढ्यम् उत्तुङ्गरक्तविलसन्नखचक्रवाल ज्योत्स्नाविराहतमहदृदयान्तकारम् सञ्चिन्तयेत् भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम् वज्राङ्कुशध्वजसरोरुहलाञ्छनाढ्यम् उत्तुङ्गरक्तविलसन्नखचक्रवाल ज्योत्स्नाभिराहतमहदृदयान्धकारम् सञ्चिन्तयेत् भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम् वज्राङ्कुशध्वजसरोरुहलाञ्छनाढ्यम् उत्तुङ्गरक्तविलसन्नखचक्रवाल ज्योत्स्नाभिराहतमहदृदयान्धकारम् Please recite. Sanchintayed Bhagavatascharanarvindam Vajrankushadvajasaroruhalanchanadhyam Uttungaraktavilasannakhachakravala ज्योत्स्नाभिराहतमहदृदय अन्धकारम् सञ्चिन्तयेत् भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम् वज्राङ्कुशध्वजसरोरुहलाञ्छनाढ्यम् उत्तुङ्गरक्तविलसन्नखचक्रवाल ज्योत्स्नाभिराहतमहदृदयान्धकारम् सञ्चिन्तयेत् भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम् वज्राङ्कुशध्वजसरोरुहलाञ्छनाढ्यम् उत्तुङ्गरक्तविलसन्नखचक्रवाल ज्योत्स्नाभिराहतमहदृदयान्धकारम् सञ्चिन्तयेत्. He should concentrate Bhagavatah of the Lord Charana Arvindam on the lotus feet, Vajra thunderbolt, Ankusha goad, a rod for driving elephants, Dvaja banner, Saroruha lotus, Lanchana marks, Adhyam adorned with, Uttunga prominent, Rakta red, Vilasat brilliant, Nakha nails, Chakravala the circle of the moon, Jyotsnabhihi with splendor, Ahata dispelled, Mahat thick, Hridaya of the heart, Andhakaram darkness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation: the devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of the beautiful ruby nails resembles the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. Please repeat. The devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of the beautiful ruby nails resembles the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. Purport: the Mayavadi says that because one is unable to fix his mind on impersonal existence of the Absolute Truth, one can imagine any form he likes and fix his mind on that imaginary form. But such a process is not recommended here. Imagination is always imagination and results only in further imagination. A concrete description of the eternal form of the Lord is given here. The Lord's soul is depicted with distinctive lines resembling a thunderbolt, a flag, a lotus flower, and a gourd. The luster of his toenails, which are brilliantly prominent, resembles the light of the moon. If a yogi looks upon the marks of the Lord's soul and on the blazing brilliance of his nails, then he can be freed from the darkness of ignorance in material existence. This liberation is not achieved by mental speculation, but by seeing the light emanating from the lustrous toenails of the Lord. In other words, one has to fix his mind first on the lotus feet of the Lord if he wants to be freed from the darkness of ignorance in material existence. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kanta Namosute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of the beautiful ruby nails resembles the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I would like to seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, especially His Grace Ramrai Prabhu, so that we can speak something and discuss something from Srila Prabhupada's purports, being in line with his mood and with his words. As Srila Prabhupada states in the first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says how the Mayavadis, they are unable to fix their mind on impersonal existence, because of which they actually suggest that we all have to meditate on any imaginary form. If someone would like to meditate on Ganesh, he is free to do so. Someone would like to meditate on uh, some fallible form, he can do so. If he wants to meditate on a red dot on a wall, he can do so. I think it was in Master's Gift when one lady, as she was chanting Hare Krishna, she went to Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, when I chant Hare Krishna, a red dot appears. What should I do? So Shri Prabhupada said, continue chanting Hare Krishna and the red dot will go away. In this way, you will find, as Shri Prabhupada states in the first paragraph of the purport, imagination is always imagination and it only leads to further imagination. Imagination can never lead to absolute truth. If that was the case, we should just be taking drugs, isn't it? Take LSD, heroin, and just have some kind of imagination, and that will lead you to Radha and Krishna. No, it's not. Srila Prabhupada says there's a process for it, a scientific process. So, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhāgavatam, Brahma, he is discarding mental speculation as disqualification for bhakti. That means by speculating one cannot attain Krishna. You can understand how to understand this. We can say, for example, if you put a bunch of monkeys with typewriters in a room, is it possible that after 1,000,000 years they can write out a beautiful poem? It's never possible. Similarly, depending on one's own grey matter and mental speculative tendencies, how much ever one can speculate, after lifetimes of birth in this material world, one can at max get a glimpse of impersonal Brahman, and that's all. Therefore, in Western philosophies, one will find, amongst all the Western philosophers, one of the topmost, were people like Socrates. And he at the max, he understood that I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. That's the max of his, spiritual advancement, to understand I'm not this body. But no further details. Whereas when Krishna is instructing Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the first instruction Krishna gives Arjuna is, Dehinosminyata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhira tatra muyati. Arjuna, you are not this body or spirit soul. You are the eternal within this body, which doesn't change, but the bodies change. Just as while being in this body, the body is undergoing kaumaram, yauvanam, jara. That means youth, that means childhood, youth and old age. Similarly, at the time of death, the body changes completely. And therefore, you are the person inside. You are the dehi, not the deha. That means you are the one acquiring this body, controlling this body, but you are not the body. And therefore, a learned sage, he dhiras tatra na muyati. He doesn't get bewildered at the time of death. First instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. Whereas after all, using all the mental speculative capacities, Socrates could only come to the point of understanding I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. Isn't it? So therefore, imagination only remains imagination. It cannot lead to absolute truth. As Brahma prays, Jnane prayasam uddapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam sthane sthita shrutigatam tanuvak manobhir ye prayashu jitajito pyasitaistrilokyam. He's saying first Jnane prayasam uddapasya namanta eva. That means first kick out Jnana prayas, trying to understand the supreme absolute truth by one's own imaginative powers. Kick that process out, because it's not going to lead to any proper result. Then he says, what should one do? Namanteva, offer obeisances. Jivanti san mukharitam bhavadiya vartam. Then he says, Tane stita shuddhikatam tanuvak manobi. Whatever one is doing, if one is a doctor, if one is an engineer, if one is a student, one is having a job outside, wherever you are, just place yourself there and give your mind, give your ears, give your body for the service of the Lord. By doing this, one can actually conquer material life and understand the absolute truth. Whereas people who are simply trying to speculate, giving up everything artificially, they will not get anything. Therefore, Brahma is telling this. Give up speculation and surrender. Surrender to those devotees who themselves are surrendered. So, therefore, Sri Prabhupada highlights in the purport that for Bhakti Yoga or to understand Krishna, there is a scientific process. It doesn't depend on one what thinks is, ifs and buts, maybes. I think it's like this, you think it's like that. No, these are all munis who simply speculate and waste their time. So therefore, there's first of all, the point we mentioned is there is a clear-cut process. And therefore, one on the path of Krishna consciousness doesn't have to tax his brain to understand who Krishna is. It is already given. So, therefore, in our process, we have three guidelines. Who are they? Guru, sadhu, and shastra. Guru is anyone who is instructing. First of all, Guru also you will find in 11th canto of Srimad Bhāgavatam. It is said, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreyamuttamam. One should go to a Guru for his ultimate benefit. But who is that Guru? Shabde Parecha Nishnatam. That means he himself is learned and he himself is expert in these spiritual subject matters. Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmanya Upashamashrayam. He himself has surrendered himself to Parabrahman, the Supreme Lord. He is a Guru. So Guru and the sadhus. Sadhus means they themselves are completely devoted to the service of the Supreme Lord. And Shastra. Shastra means the bhakti literatures which are the essence of all the other Vedic literatures. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. Krishna is saying Arjuna that amongst the Vedic literatures, most of, you can say 80% or over 80% is the Vedic rituals which constitutes karma kanda, which is within the three modes. So Krishna is instructing Arjuna, when you refer to Shastra, the Shastras which are to do with the three modes of material nature, Nistray Gunyo Bhavarjuna, you rise above them. Don't go for those aspects of Shastra. Go for that Shastra, Srimad Bhāgavatam, which is Amala Purana, which is Dharma Projita Kaitavatta Paramo Nirmatsaranam Tam. It's meant for the non-envious. It kicks out all the other false fruits of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. It is written by Srila Vyasadeva. Go for that Srimad Bhāgavatam. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamakadamrita dravya sayutam. That means Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam means in a tree, what is the most sweetest aspect of the tree? Is it the bark? Is it the leaves? Is it the twig? Is it the branches? No, it's the fruit. And not even the unripe fruit. Not the green mango, the sweet ripe mango. Isn't it? So this Srimad Bhāgavatam is considered to be the fruit of the Vedic tree. The final ripened fruit. That's what Vyasadeva says. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukhamukad amrita dravya sanyutam. That means this fruit has increased its flavor because the parrot called Shuka has bit into it. Who is? Srimati Radharani's personal parrot. So now the sweetness of Bhagavatam is even more increased. So therefore the devotees take part in hearing the narrations as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore we don't have to speculate. So Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, this is our guiding light. They give us the direction of how to proceed ahead. Therefore we have Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya. That means when one surrenders to Guru, he becomes a torchlight for the devotee to show the path. So when we look at the bhakti process, our acharyas have clearly stated what is sambandha. What is sambandha? To understand sambandha, we have to understand oneself, we have to understand who God is and what is the relationship between the two. Who am I? Any idea? Yeah. Jivera Swarupuhai Krishna Nityadas. Who is Krishna? Yeah, Krishna is Akila Rasamrita Murti. Krishna is Sarva Shaktiman. Krishna is the like Parasya Shakti Vidhev Shuyata, it is mentioned. All the energies, they belong to Krishna. Everything is working under Krishna's order. Aham sarvasya prabhava mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Krishna is telling Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that all the material and spiritual worlds emanate from me, and the wise who know and understand this, they will take to my service. Isn't it? So this is Krishna. So we understand who Krishna is, we understand our position, and the relationship is he is the master, we are his servant. So for one who understands this, then bhakti becomes very simple. Bhakti is not a very complicated process. Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, you don't need any degree for these things. Was the difficulty, Prabhupada would say. But for the complicated mind, it is very complicated. Isn't it? It is simple for the simple, complicated for the complicated. So, therefore, you will find when is mind complicated? Mind is complicated when the mind is not purified. So, of course, Kapila Muni is explaining devotional service with a tangent of Ashtanga Yoga, because he explains Yama Niyama and all that, isn't it? To Devahuti. So you'll find the principles of Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are same. Though the practices, particular practices may not be applicable in Kali Yuga because of our fragile bodies, we cannot do so much. But at the same time, principles are the same. That means Yama Niyama. What is Yama Niyama? Yeah, don'ts and the do's. So first comes don'ts and then comes do's. Then comes pranayama, breath control. Then comes asana, postures. Then comes pratyahara. Pratyahara means restraint of senses from sense objects. Very important. Why? Only then the mind is peaceful. If the mind is in touch with sense object, or the senses are in touch with sense objects, then ye hisam sparsha jhabhoga dukkha yonaya evate. Immediately there is dukkha. Bhoga ishvarya prasaktanam taya apratachetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. Why? Because the mind which is accustomed to opulence and enjoyment, that mind cannot have one pointed focus in service to Krishna. In bhakti it cannot have. So therefore Kapila Muni is teaching, instructing Devahuti how to first of all control the mind. And this control of the mind is not dry process like the impersonalists, like the Jnana Yogis. For them the process is mentioned as klesho adhikatarastesham. Isn't it? Why? Because for them it is a very difficult process, because it's dry renunciation. Whereas when Kapila Muni is instructing Devahuti, he is instructing on fixing the mind, but fixing the mind on the supreme object, on Akila Rasamrita Murti, who is supremely beautiful, whose beauty is unmatched. That is Krishna, isn't it? So therefore there is a definite process. You will find in examples of pure devotees. Actually, somewhere in 11th canto it is mentioned, the pure devotees also have all the mystic powers of the yogis, is mentioned. And you will find this in the life of Srila Haridas Thakur. The life of Srila Haridas Thakur, once upon a time, when Haridas Thakur had come to this village called as Fulyagram. So that time you will find when he had to reside in Fulyagram, he found a cave to himself. But the locals told him, along with him there also lives a snake. So Haridas Thakur wasn't a bit concerned. But later on he did become concerned. He did take some concern for all the locals. They were worrying so much about Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur told the snake, "My dear snake, I want to live here. So if you can move out, then I can stay. If you want to stay, I will move out, as you wish." Then what happened? The snake went out, isn't it? Actually, it's a mystic siddhi to learn to deal with all the other living creatures in the forest. When one in Journey Home, my spiritual master writes that actually as he went to India, he was learning how to live in the forest. So he met with different Babajis and so many people living in the forest. So he would actually go and learn from them how to live in the forest without being eaten by the forest animals. That means one has to live in cooperation with the forest species. So he was taught that actually a real sadhu is so non-envious that even the most inimical creatures don't want to hurt him. See, when we have envy or when we want to hurt, or there is that the other living entities can sense some sort of danger from us, and therefore they attack. So therefore, these sadhus in the forest, they would learn this art of how to be non-threatening in such a way that even the other living creatures can perceive that they're non-threatening, and therefore they can survive in the forests, isn't it? So you will find similarly Haridas Thakur also had it. Immediately the snake left and Haridas Thakur stayed. Later on you will find once Snake Charmer was putting up a performance of Krishna subduing Kaliya. He was putting up a performance with the snakes and all that. He was Snake Charmer. So that time Haridas Thakur happened to come there. He simply stood and he started witnessing this great pastime, this performance of Kaliya being subdued by Krishna. And that time Haridas Thakur immediately, without any control, went into a state of ecstasy. And all the external symptoms of ecstasy, the Ashtasattvika Bhav, got manifested. Tears started rolling down his eyes, and then his hair started standing on end, started crying, rolling on the ground, body started changing colors, and so on and so forth. All the people, they were struck by this manifestation of bhava. Immediately the snake charmer stopped his performance and his folded palms, he started offering his respects to Haridas Thakur. But as soon as Haridas Thakur got to know that something went out of control, immediately he withdrew and went away from that place. But in that audience was also one Brahmana who was looking for some cheap reputation as a great devotee. He noticed all the particulars of Haridas Thakur's ecstasy, and it is mentioned he actually imitated them exactly as Haridas Thakur exhibited. Exactly. So he also started crying for the Lord. He started rolling on the ground, body started changing colors. So much of imitation. So it's possible to imitate. But this snake charmer, who was in mood of reverence for Haridas Thakur, immediately went, got a big stick from one of his followers, and he beat him and beat him and beat him like anything. Such that this fellow was almost a bloody mess before he ran away from that place. And the people asked him, why did you offer your respects to Haridas Thakur, whereas you beat this poor Brahmana who was also doing the same thing? My spiritual master was explaining, actually this person was none other than Balram. So you can understand who was actually exhibiting pure ecstasy and who was simply imitating. So why am I saying this? Because there's a definite process, a scientific process to come to that level. And a symptom of uncontrolled mind is the tendency to jump. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, Sri Prabhupada mentions, one should not jump artificially to the higher levels. Like for example, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, you will find first in the Eastern division, there are 4 things talked about. There are 4 waves, isn't it? First wave only describes about bhakti in general. Their definition of Uttam Bhakti is given. Anyone knows what is it? What is Uttama Bhakti? Yeah. Anya abhilashata shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu sheelanam bhaktir uttama. This is Uttama Bhakti. Where there is no other desire than to please the Supreme Person of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Now in the second, later on, what is being explained in the further waves are 3 categories or steps to Uttama Bhakti. First one is Sadhana Bhakti. That is also categorized as Uttama Bhakti. Then comes Bhava Bhakti. That is also Uttama Bhakti. Then is Prema Bhakti, which is also Uttama Bhakti. So in sadhana bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad explains that there are two types of sadhana bhakti. One is vaidhi sadhana bhakti, other one is raganuga sadhana bhakti. In raganuga sadhana bhakti, of course, that is a stage when, if you read Nectar of Instruction, that comes towards the end where a person is so qualified that he actually follows in the footsteps of one of the Vrajavasis in whichever rasa he wants to be developed. He actually follows that particular role model. And he cultivates. He's like an apprentice. But before that comes Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, where Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is explained as following of rules and regulations. The 64 limbs of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. First one is what? It talks about the 10 do's. Then talks about 10 don'ts. And then 44 other aspects of Sadhana Bhakti. So in that you will read, see I have this Bhakti Rasamrita Subodhini. So it's very important to mention. See, sometimes some people ask, why Prabhu you ask everyone to dance in Aarti, why should we sing, can't we just manifest our Bhakti in our hearts? You will find this is one of the angas of Bhakti, of the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And how does it happen when we practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti properly? Then one actually, it's like a blossoming of a flower. One blossoms into higher and higher stages. One doesn't, like suppose you have a mango and you want to sell the mango. So sometimes the mango is still green. So what do? People smoke the mango. When you smoke the mango, it becomes ripened, but it is still unripe inside. So similarly, artificially going to, Bhava Bhakti or higher stages keeps us outside. Yes, we can manifest so many things. If the Brahmana can manifest all the ecstatic symptoms of what Haridas Thakur exhibited, then one can manifest many other things also. Isn't it? So therefore, we don't want to smoke our bhakti. We want to grow in our bhakti. So you will find in the 64 aspects or angas of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Let me tell you. Okay, the first 10 limbs. Let me keep like this. First one is Guru Padashraya. So that means if at all one wants to make advancement in bhakti, one has to surrender to a guru, a bona fide Vaishnava guru, taking shelter of a guru. Then comes Krishna Diksha Dishikshanam, that is receiving initiation and learning how to perform bhakti. Then is Vishrambhena Guru Seva, that is serving guru with respect. You see how much emphasis there on following and serving guru. Then sadhu vartma anuvartanam, following the scriptural rules in footsteps of the acharyas. Isn't it? Then sadharma pricha, inquiring from guru how to advance in Krishna consciousness. So when we talk about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, many people say that why Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is all full of rules and regulations. We want to be more spontaneous. But that spontaneity will not come by not following rules and regulations. Raganuga Bhakti is not to follow rules and regulations. It's like in school you have uniform. As soon as people graduate from school and go to college, people are so happy now. I have to follow any rules. I can wear any damn clothes I want. That's not the way it is working. Vaidhi Bhakti means our mind is contaminated, so we don't have an attraction to come for Mangalarti. We don't have an attraction to study Srimad Bhāgavatam. We don't have an attraction to chant the holy name. So Vaidhi Bhakti means still you do it. Because the Guru is saying. Because Sadharma Pricha is there. You inquire from Guru. How do I advance? So Guru says, chant 16 rounds. Follow 4 regulated principles. Study the shastra daily. And inquire from me if you want to make any changes in this. So this is all stated by Guru. So then, therefore, it's Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And as the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti matures, what is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti? Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti means people don't have to tell you to come. That means you're not bound by rules and regulations anymore. There's natural affection developed that one wants to come. One wants to chant. Why 16? Why not 16,000 as Prabhupada said? Isn't it? No one will now ask you, Prabhu, how many rounds you chanted? I don't see you with your beatbag nowadays. No one has to ask you. You're always with your beatbag. You're always engaged in Krishna Seva. You're always serving the Vaishnavas. So this means Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, where the rules and regulations have simply become, they don't have much use right now. Then that comes as Raganuga. But unfortunately, some people think, what is Raganuga? We have to be so spontaneous that we don't have to follow any rules. That is not Raganuga. That is mental speculation. Jnane prayasa mudupasena manteva. That we can throw it out the window. Speculative tendencies to understand who Krishna is. Speculative understanding of how to progress ahead in Krishna consciousness. So, therefore, the fifth one is Saddharma Pricha. That means inquire from Guru. How should I progress ahead? And the Guru will instruct. This is how to progress ahead. Yeah, then further on it is mentioned, sixth one is Bhogadi Tyaga Krishnasya Hetave. Giving up material enjoyment to please Krishna and get his mercy. And then residing in holy place like Dwarka or Vrindavan near Ganga. Accepting only what is necessary for the body, or dealing with material body as only as necessary, as much as necessary. Observing fasting on Ekadashi. Worshipping sacred trees like Banyan and Amalaki. These are the first 10 limbs which talks about the do's. And then next 10 limbs talks about the don'ts. That means not associating with those who are opposed to the Lord. Not being attached to making too many or unfit disciples. This is Shishyadi Anubanditvam. Not being attached to making too many disciples or unfit fellows, just for the sake of popularity, followers. That doesn't mean, is like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Prativatyachi agar nagaradi gram, sarvat prachar hoy bhi munaram. So later on he says that everyone should become a guru and spread this holy name. So this thing means that one should not do it for the sake of popularity. Then comes not being enthusiastic for huge undertakings or costly temples. That means, again, you have to understand the mood. That means, for Krishna Seva, Prabhupada said, I'm ready to speak under a tree, but you will not come and hear from me under a tree. Therefore, I'm building these temples, like that. So therefore, for preaching, to attract new people, we do build buildings, but not to show that I'm a great soul. My name will be imprinted in history, and I have built the biggest temple. That should not be. That's contrary to bhakti. That will reduce our bhakti. Means it will reduce our pull down of consciousness. They're not studying many useless books to earn livelihood or to defeat others in useless arguments. Not feel miserable in any material circumstances. That means don't get attached to material circumstances. That material circumstances drive our consciousness. We should become to some degree indifferent. Not lamenting in loss or other extreme emotions. Not disrespecting devatas. This is anga of bhakti. Not disrespecting devatas. Why? Because they're ministers in Krishna's government. Not troubling other living entities. Avoiding offenses in deity worship and chanting. Actually, see, not troubling other living entities. Bhuta anudvega daita. Sometimes there's a debate, amongst devotees. Prabhu, should we kill cockroaches in kitchen or not kill? Actually, the tendency of a Vaishnava is titikshava karunikaha suhrida sarva dehinam ajata shatta shantaha sadhava sadhabhushanaha. These are the ornaments of a Vaishnava, that he is very tolerant and he is very merciful and he is a friend of all living entities. Isn't it? That means generally we want to try our best not to kill. Like in India, someone asked one Prabhu, can we kill mosquitoes? With spray or putting there's some poison, or some coil, poisonous coil. You can just light it, it will kill all the mosquitoes. Prabhu said, just use a mosquito net. Isn't it? If you just use a mosquito net, then mosquitoes will not eat you, will not bite you. And you also get now repellent cream. You can wear them, Odomos or something in India. Wear them. You don't kill the mosquitoes and they also survive. This is a Vaishnava. Now that you have to keep killing everything, getting into, physical, this thing. It's not very Vaishnava type. Then comes not disrespecting devatas is done, not troubling other living entities, avoiding offenses in deity worship and chanting, and not tolerating the blasphemy of Krishna and his devotees by those who hate him. I mean, there are 44 more. I will not go through each and every one, but some of the vital ones for us. Marking one's body with Vaishnava tilak. Srila Rup Goswami says, as soon as as we take bath, we should never leave our body without tilak. If Gopi Chandan is not available, we have to at least put water tilak. But tilak should always be there. Why? Because you will see other one. Marking the body with Lord's names. That's the next one. We are marking the body with Lord's name. Then we understand there's a temple of the Lord. Then 24th one is Tasyagre Tandavam, dancing before the deity. This will increase bhakti, dancing before the deity. So till the time, how much of our energy we have, I saw one Sri Prabhupada's memories in one video. Sri Prabhupada is chanting and the Prabhu, I don't remember who was speaking, he was saying, Prabhupada would always observe each one of us. And for us, we would be very eager to dance and make a big, show just to see Prabhupada pleased. So we were all young and very enthusiastic. So we danced like anything, like that he was saying. And you will find in that video, Sri Prabhupada is chanting, sitting on the asan. And all these small boys are jumping like anything from the, ground to the ceiling, they're jumping. And even the young brahmacharis, the sannyasis, and the people who are little more elderly, they're just standing and waving their hands. People little more elderly, they're doing little more lesser. So you will find, to the degree we have energy, we should dance as much as possible. If we don't dance for Krishna, we'll dance for Maya. Isn't it? So therefore, when we dance for Krishna before the deity, it increases our bhakti, uplifts consciousness. So even if we don't feel like it, we should dance. That is Vaidhi Bhakti, isn't it? Vaidhi Bhakti means what? We don't go by feelings, because as of now, mind is uncontrolled. Sankalpa, Vikalpa. Sankalpa and Vikalpa. Accept and reject. Always accept, reject. So whether we like it or not, one should do it. That becomes Vaidhi Bhakti. And one more is bowing down before deity or guru. Whenever we come in temple hall, we should bow down. Standing up to see the Lord. When the Lordships give the darshan, we should stand and be eager to get the darshan. Yeah. Then worshipping the deity, menial service to the deity, singing for the deity, singing the group of devotees, chanting the holy name. Submissive appeals means offering prayers, reciting notable prayers, tasting Mahaprasad of the Lord, tasting Charnamrit of the Lord. All these things have to be done with proper consciousness. Only then they become Anga of Bhakti. If I take 2-3 cup of this thing for the taste, I cannot say I'm doing Bhakti. Isn't it? Yeah. Smelling the incense and flowers offered to the Lord. Yeah, like this it goes on. So you will find the singing and dancing for the Lord very, very important. Awaiting the mercy of the Lord, remembrance of the Lord, meditating on the Lord, acting as servant of the Lord, thinking of the Lord as a friend, offering oneself to the Lord, offering the best items to the Lord, making all the efforts for the Lord, and so on and so forth. Like that it goes on. So I just wanted to impress on one point that we have a process. We have a process. The Goswamis, the Acharyas have given a process. It's not imagination. Imagination leads to, what does it lead to? Further imagination. Isn't it? So, therefore, bhakti is a process which there is enough guidance for all of us to take it up. And you will find, therefore, if you see the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is explaining on, he says a concrete description of the eternal form of the Lord is given here. Why? So that we can fix our mind on it. In the previous verse, see, tasmil labda padam chittam sarvayava samstitam vilakshaikatra samyujya ange bhagavato munihi. In fixing his mind on the eternal form of the Lord, the yogi should not take a collective view of all limbs. It was explained yesterday, I think. It was read yesterday, this verse. But should fix the mind on each individual limb of the Lord. Why? Why is this being said? Why individual limb of the Lord? Why not collective? Impersonal. But you're seeing the person. How is it impersonal? It's not impersonal. Instead of collective view, why a view of every limb should be taken separately? Sorry? Increase of bhakti. Okay, good. I think more. Oh, different benefits are there. Okay. Spiritually selfish. Okay, good. Yeah, that's also good. Then why should we meditate on different limbs of the Lord? See, mind is like you say photographic memory. Some people have photographic memory. So mind captures images. So when the mind captures images, what comes in our dreams are permutation combination of different images captured by the mind. That's what comes in the dreams. It's stored in the mind. Say you are walking in the prasadam hall, immediately there's some catering order. Your eyes falls on a tray of rasmalai. Immediately goes in the mind and sits. Isn't it? It's a photographic memory. So as soon as the images are captured, then one actually dhyato vishan pumsa sanghasteshu pajayate sangha sanjayate kamaha kamat krodha vijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vibhramaha smriti vibhramshat buddhinashat pranashyati. Then one reaches a fallen state that when no one is looking, he will go and steal because he has reached that level. All intelligence, everything is lost in between. Isn't it? Why? Because mind captures images. So therefore, to make the mind absorb in Krishna, what should we do? Focus the mind, fix the mind on every aspect of the Lord. And that means of the deity, okay, Krishna's lotus feet. In the previous one also it is said, in the purport, I think Srila Prabhupada says, start from the lotus feet. So every anga, what color the deities are wearing, what ornaments are they wearing? Okay, how is the lotus feet decorated? How are what kind of flute is he wearing? There are different flutes. Something ending with a peacock, some with the elephant trunk, different are there. What type of crown, what type of decoration on the face, everything. So when you look at the deities like that, you will take at least 20 minutes to get darshan, isn't it? So then darshanarti will be darshanarti. Otherwise, then we look at the deity. By evening, you can ask someone who didn't come for the arti. They can ask what the deity is wearing. Will not have any answer, isn't it? Because the mind has not captured it. The thing is, mind needs some absorption. So if mind doesn't get absorbed here, then mind has to be absorbed elsewhere. Therefore, in New Vrindavan memories, it was being mentioned. In those days, it was so austere that their only sense gratification was to look at the deities in darshan, their new dress. So if in those days, if you ask any resident of New Vrindavan, what were the deities wearing, last to last Thursday, they can tell you. Because that was the only sense gratification. Because there is no other sense gratification. So mind is absorbed where? Are the deities. But you give multiple shelters or multiple objects for the mind to contemplate and chew on. Then when you look at the deities, yeah, it's okay, very nice. Okay, peach color, wonderful, Haribo. There's no attraction, there's no absorption because mind is absorbed elsewhere. Therefore, it's mentioned, we should concentrate on every limb of the Lord and not just limb of the Lord. Dress, what type of dress, what all the deities are wearing. And one has to also meditate similarly on how does Krishna look? His holy name one should meditate. His rupa, nama rupa guna leela one should meditate. Practice meditation. Like in South India, there was one devotee from Sri Vaishnava. Whole life he was a pujari who was making garlands for the Lord. So at the time of his, when he was 80 or 90, he entered into a coma state. Coma means, not coma really, but towards the end he was on his deathbed basically. But even when he was not conscious, his hands were moving like this. Because he was making garlands for the Lord entire life. So even when he's lying on the bed, he's making garlands. And there are no garlands, but his hands are moving like this. Isn't it? See? Therefore, bhakti has to be cultivated, has to be practiced. So when practiced properly, it will reap the right result. But imagination will not. So Prabhupada says, therefore, when you look at the lotus feet of the lotus feet of the Lord has so many auspicious symbols. 4 only are mentioned out of 19 of them. What all are mentioned? First, lotus is mentioned. See, lotus has so many understandings. First of all, when Lord's lotus feet has lotus symbol, what does it mean? Anyone who takes shelter of Lord's lotus feet can transcend the material world. Because lotus is a flower which is born in a swamp but is off the swamp, above the swamp, not affected by the swamp. Similarly, when there is lotus on Lord's lotus feet, in the lotus feet also indicates that the bees, they like to be around the lotus, isn't it? The bees are always buzzing around the lotus. Similarly, the minds of the devotees are always hovering around the Lord's lotus feet. Like that. I was reading an article, so there were many more mentioned. Yeah, it increases the nectar in the minds of the bee-like devotees. That's another one. Lotus also means goddess of fortune, means bhakti resides there. And it also means the Lord's lotus feet are as soft as lotus petals. And it also shows love for his devotees, lotus, because Lord Vishnu has Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. Shankha and Padma are for the devotees, Gada and Chakra are for the demons. So, like this, when we go into detail of every aspect of the Lord, immediately our fondness for the Lord increases. Then when we hear narrations of the pastimes of the Lord, we will really be moved by it. Otherwise, simply jumping into pastimes, or as Prabhupada would say, simply jumping into 10th canto like a monkey, will not reap any result. What is the remaining Srimad Bhāgavatam for? Everything is important. So, therefore, when we meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, immediately leads to purification of the heart. Then the mind, which by nature is completely uncontrolled, sankalpa vikalpa ichchadvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. That means as soon as we are born in this material world, we are born into illusion. So that mind, which is always accepting and rejecting the same thing which it had accepted some time ago, this fickle mind, chanchalam mind, can be controlled by fixing it on Lord's lotus feet. And therefore in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, if a yogi looks upon the marks of the Lord's soul and on the blazing brilliance of his nails, then he can be freed from the darkness of ignorance in existence. Isn't it? That's lotus. Then there's elephant goad. Elephant goad is for rod to control the elephant. Why? Who is the elephant here? The mind. Mind is as destructive and powerful like the elephant. For that, Krishna's lotus feet can control our mind. Then what is mentioned? A flag of victory. That means as soon as we see the flag of victory on Krishna's lotus feet, immediately the devotees understand, as soon as I take shelter here, there is security and protection for me. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami mas shuchaha. And then one more was mentioned. The flag, elephant goad, thunderbolt. Thunderbolt means anyone who takes shelter of Krishna, all his sinful reactions are completely destroyed by the thunderbolt, Krishna's thunderbolt. Like that. These four were mentioned. Then Prabhupada goes on. He says, this liberation is not achieved by mental speculation, but by seeing the light emanating from the lustrous toenails of the Lord. So when the Mayavadis say we are just meditating on impersonal Brahman, what is that impersonal Brahman? It is the glaring effulgence emanating from the toenails of the Lord. So therefore, if at all one wants to attain liberation, one has to understand this Brahman, impersonal Brahman, is coming from the Supreme Lord. If they do not understand that, they cannot get liberated. And that is one category of Brahmavadis who actually get liberated, who understand the Supreme Lord is the source of Brahman. In other words, one has to fix his mind first on the lotus feet of the Lord if he wants to be freed from the darkness of ignorance in material existence. So I'll just conclude with one pastime. My spiritual master once gave a talk, a 5-hour talk on His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Swami. So that time he was explaining in that when he and Bhakti Tirth Maharaj would actually meet, they were very good of friends. So when they would actually meet, they would start discussing Krishna Katha in the evening. And discussing Krishna Katha, they would lie down. They continue discussing Krishna Katha. And as the clock would tick by 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., again they would get up, take bath and attend Mangalarti. This is Raganuga level, isn't it? Overcome sleep, overcome, everything else. So if we want to develop that level of absorption, We have to follow the right process, and not mental speculation. If at all we have any doubts on the path of bhakti, we have so many senior devotees around us. We can go catch the lotus feet and ask them for some time and get guidance. I'll stop here. Maybe if anyone wants to say one thing or ask any question, one question we can just take. Okay, we'll stop here. Grantha Srimad Bhāgavatam ki, Shri Prabhupada ki